Chapter 11, Section 4, A New Mass Culture. How did the new mass culture reflect technological and social changes? Trace reasons for leisure time increases. How the development of popular culture united Americans, created new activities heroes. Advancements of women, and then the concept of modernism and its impact on the writers and painters of the 1920s. So when we look at why this matters, so between radio, movies, more and more people being able to read and write, more and more newspapers, this is the age of heroes. The other thing is more and more Americans are exposed to the same thing all across the country. So for example, this video here shows people doing the Charleston, the Peabody, the Turkey Trot. People listen to the same music, did the same kinds of dances. They followed the Yankees, Jack Dempsey. So they have really a common culture, and they have a common thing to talk about all across the country. So rather than being regional entertainments, it's more national entertainments. Americans enjoy more leisure time. The average work week went from 40 hours a week to what it was at 70. Salaries and wages are on the rise, so people have more free time and more money, and those are the two things you need for leisure time. Movies is huge, and so here you got Buster Keaton, and again, you sometimes think, oh, these black and white movies, they're black and white, how good can they be? But when you look at Buster Keaton's work, if you look at Charlie Chaplin's work, their work is really timeless. And so if you've never taken the time to check them out, they're well worth watching. I'm not saying the graphics are super, but it's funny stuff. And their ability to make a gag and pull off a gag is unbelievable. You really start to see, the other thing about movies is it's a cultural classroom because everybody pays the same amount and then first come, first serve. So if you're the first one in line, your tickets cost the same as the last person in line, and you can sit wherever you want in the movie theater. 1927 is the first talkie, the jazz singer. The other thing with radio, phonograph breaking down barriers, you get a really standardized culture. So for example, with the radio programs, our TV programming is set up just like radios were. You've got news in the morning, you got soap operas late afternoon, you got news in the evening, and then you've got prime time. That is copied from the radio. And again, you've got people doing the same songs, same dances, seeing the same commercials, same sporting events. America really becomes pretty standardized. And like I mentioned before, this is the age of heroes. Sports really kind of win a lot of fans. You've got Babe Ruth, who becomes huge. Grantland Rice, who's this famous sports writer, it gets people really known. Red Grange in football. You got Jack Dempsey in boxing. Bobby Jones in golf, and here you've got Babe Dietrichson, who could arguably be one of the greatest athletes of all time. You've also got Gertrude Elderly. She swam across the English Channel. The other thing is you've got Lucky Lindy, who crosses the Atlantic. There was a competition to have the first non-stop flight across the Atlantic Ocean, and Charles Lindbergh from Minnesota pulls it off, and he becomes world famous after that. So when we look at women, flappers changing these older limits, and so here you see swimsuits and dresses from before the flappers, and then here is how flappers dressed afterwards. And so the new woman is the flapper. They're given far more latitude than ever before. You see a whole host of women first female governors, jobs in industries. You see one of the first women just before this being elected to Congress. They're voting for the first time. There's all kinds of new things happening for women. The other thing is when we look at family life, because of the advancements in medicine, because of the advancements in technology, women have it much better than they've had before. They're living longer, marrying later, having fewer children. Modern appliances free up all kinds of time for them, and they can actually pursue things that they're interested in. So that's a big change. So we've got these modern paintings challenging traditions. You got more abstract styles. This is Hopper. And when you really look at some of the things that they're looking at is in this case, you have got this woman who's sitting in this cafe all alone. And even though she lives in this big, huge city with millions and millions of people, she still feels alone. And the other thing that these modern paintings really look at too is the role that technology plays. There's another painting where you see really people, that not the need for workers anymore because it's all going to become kind of robotic and mechanized. And it's just kind of interesting. And when we look at post-war American literature, The Lost Generation, These are some of the greatest writers in American literature: F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hemingway, Sinclair Lewis, T.S. Eliot. And so here's another abstract painting from the period. But the art reflects this mood of uncertainty that's going on, this new world order, not quite sure how it's all going to go. And that's really what we're seeing in both the writing and the painting and the literature of this generation.